My name is Michael, aka Rickshaw, and you are nerding out with Rickshaw. Today we have a special guest, ExEmmure guitarist Jesse. Say hi, Jesse.
Hello, how we doing, everybody?
And you're also nerding out with.
What's up, guys? I'm Fuzz.
What's up, nerds? It's Rabbit.
And it's the producer, Toby.
What the fuck is going on?
Anyways, Jesse, it's been a long time, dude, since we have caught up. We actually know each other from touring. Whenever he was in Emmure, we did a lot of touring together. I think we did Europe a couple. I think we mainly, that was like the main one where we got to know each other, right? In Europe.
Yeah, I was thinking about that earlier today. I was like, I know in Europe we shared a bus, so we were like, there was like fucking 25 of us in one bus. It was such a confined spot, and you know, either you're gonna learn to love or hate somebody, and absolutely, we hung out. That was a good time, and lots of doner kebabs were had, and late night walks to find food, and all types of random weirdness in Europe. But man, good times, absolutely. That was like what, 2011?
I want to say 11. Also,
something like that.
Yeah. And it was, you know, I wrestled a bear once. It was Emmure. It was it War from a Harlot's Mouth?
Oh, you got me the shorts on that tour. You got me the War from a Harlot's Mouth shorts on that tour. I still have them to this day.
And there has to have been another one, right? Had to have been 4 people on the bill.
Yeah. Oh goodness. I'm. Who else was it?
Hold on.
What's it from the UK? It was that hardcore band from the UK with Stewart, right? What was it? Your Demise? No, not them.
Yeah, I thought it was Your Demise because that's where you
maybe
got the
it was,
hoodie, wasn't it?
Wasn't it? Hold on. What's the California band? Winds of Plague? Was Winds of Plague on that one?
Oh yes, we shared a bus. Yes. That's right. Man,
okay.
It's tough to remember it like that. All of it.
Yeah.
that shit was a long time ago, man. For y'all, I can only imagine.
Yeah. And then also the All Stars tour, y'all were on also, right?
Yeah, the All Stars. That was us, you guys, a bunch of bands. It was Alisana and just the whole long laundry list of bands. That was a lot of fun too. And those tours are cool, but the only thing, as you know, it can get stressful because like they're going to be like at dinner and then at home already by the time we play. Like, how's this even going to make sense? So definitely some weird vibes sometimes, but usually always a good time, and I feel like we always had some good laughs. And Stephen Bradley lives here in Nashville.
I didn't know you were in Nashville too.
Yeah. I moved down here in like 2015, and then he ended up getting a house here. Maybe like 5 years ago or something like that. So I've gotten to link up with him a couple of times and think about old times with him. So pretty cool.
Well, that's good. He's still, he's out there allegedly smoking still, or
who's that?
You?
No, dude, I quit a while ago, man.
Dang.
Yeah, listen, I get it. Like I respect the culture. I respect the plant and the whole thing, but like it just wasn't making sense for me. Like when I was on tour and meeting up with people and all the things, almost 10 years ago now, and just rubbing elbows and hanging out and like socializing, and like that made more sense at that point. But then when I came home and I wasn't doing that, it was just kind of like I'm just burning myself out. So it just was like I gotta stop. My dog accidentally ate some weed by accident and was like shaking, and she was freaking out. It was just, there was so many things that happened. I was spending the money and I'm like, it's not what it used to be anymore, man. So it was like quite a weaning off period, and then that was it, because I'm kind of like a go or don't go, light switch on, light switch off. No. So do it or don't do it. Not like, do it and go to sleep. You know what I mean? It's like very legal and decriminalized in a lot of states. So it's like not as big of a deal as it was 10 years ago, but I just don't know much better. So like, I think when we were touring at the time, it was vodka in water bottles, right? That was the whole thing. Like,
yeah.
On the stage, take the label off. If the label's off, don't drink it unless you want it. You want it. Type of thing. So
Dude, I think about how we would just rage back then, and now I could have like a shot and a beer, and my legs are cramping the next morning because I'm like dehydrated. So it's
Old dog.
I know, man. I turned 41 this past June. And it's funny because when I turned 40, right before I turned 40, I was like, I can't believe this is happening. Like, how, why? But then you look back and like, what did I do? And in a case by case, basis, you look at it and go, okay, I did these things, and I'm like, all right, I'm okay with that. Now it's like, let's go to the next chapter and try to do the best I can to, take care of myself. And now I go bowling. I'm on bowling leagues, and it's so weird. Like, I never was into sports or anything, but it's like drag racing, car stuff, bowling, ping pong, bocce. Like, there's just weird random shit that I like to do that I'm like, all right, I enjoy this now. And when I was on tour, I couldn't be bothered. It would just be let me smoke, maybe lift weights, and kind of just hang out. That would be it. I was content.
Oh yeah, I remember specifically that y'all would have people in every city, even in Europe, bringing out bud, and I would be like, thank God for those boys in Emmure.
Oh my God, I know. That was the whole thing, and I look back. It's funny because this is kind of a medium long story, but I look back and a lot of the old Facebook posts, and like I delete them as they come along. I'm like, oh my God, I was nuts. I was on Facebook. Please, I'm in your city, blah blah blah. Like just being like, or somebody else needed it, so I'm on there trying to get people together to make it happen. And then, as time went on, I'm just kind of looking at that. I'm like, man, that's so crazy. That's kind of what it was. It was like this need, this necessity. And when we were in Europe one time, if you remember, I met somebody at a show. Like, yeah, I live here, but you have to cross over like two countries' borders, and it's super close. I don't know if you remember this story, but like I would literally, I walked like 2.5 miles, like through two borders that were like closed, just whatever, and to go meet somebody, hang out with them at their house, and then come back and be like, guys, I have plunder. I brought the plunder with me, like a fucking pirate. Yeah. So,
oh dear God.
Oh yeah, so many stories like that. But the funniest times were, again, we're in the bus, right, and like we'd be sitting there, and they'd be like, okay, we have the food for you, and like they'd bring milk crates of like bread sandwiches with like a little bit of cheese or like a little bit of weird sauce in there and like something, a little bit of meat maybe, and you're like, and they're like, come on, let's go. Don't even know where we are in the world. We're going, right? Take a sip of vodka, and we're walking to an open kebab place. And I always tell people, I'm like, we would see like these venues turn from like small metal shows to clean up to turn into gigantic discotheques or whatever, right? Like,
oh yeah, dude,
the streets were nuts. Yeah,
but it's nuts. It's crazy to think about that. Like, we're like, damn, the show was sick tonight. There's like, 400 people, 500 people sometimes to where it's like, damn, it was tight in there. And then we're moving out the gear, and then there's like 5,000 people in line, and we're like, what the fuck is going on tonight? And they're like, everyone likes to dance. Like, what? Like,
I remember that. I was almost like discouraged. I'm like, what did we do wrong? I was like, no, it's not what you did wrong. It's what they did right. Like, this is what these people really, really, really want to hear.
Yeah.
And like, people would be at the metal show and they come out and like turn around and stand back in line, and like all the random people. And we've seen so many people fighting, falling down in the street, sitting in the alleyway, right? Like, remember the boat in Paris, right? There was like a boat you play on.
Yeah.
Yeah. We saw a guy that was just laid out there, just sitting there, passed out. We watched him piss his fucking pants. And like literally, like, yo, he's peeing right now. And I think we named him like El Pee Wee Wee or something funny. We were cracking up. I was like, this is nuts, man. I mean, like, it's just like a
Pee Le Pew.
Yeah.
Literally, man. It was a wild deal over there. And then here in the States, it was like wild, but like more contained, because like, oh, this is what we know, right? Like, this is like the culture and everything that we know. So I always tell people, man, I love traveling, but every time we travel, been to Europe like 16, 17 times or whatever, every time I'd come back to JFK in New York and land, I would literally kiss the marble disgusting floor and be like, I'm so happy to be home. Like, no disrespect. I'm so thankful and happy to do those things, right? And be there. But from my culture, how I was brought up and all that, I was like, man, all right, I'm good. Like, I have much more respect, where before it was like, oh, Queens, fuck the world. No one knows nothing if you don't grow up in Queens, New York, right? Like, and then that quickly vanished when I started traveling. I was like, oh man, like I see all these different things, and it was very humbling in a good way. So, absolutely.
Yeah, I feel you. And it's funny that you brought up the bread thing because even Mikey, when I posted about the you being on earlier, Mikey was like, "Hey man, you should ask him about the time that I hid sandwiches in fucking Frankie's windbreaker." And do you remember this story at all?
Oh, I don't remember. No, with like the saran wrap sandwich you're talking about, like the little.
Yeah, like how they like if we had it for lunch, they set everything out for us to make sandwiches, but then during the show or like right before the show, they like actually build a bunch of sandwiches and put them in bags, and then they send them with you on the bus. You know?
Yes, what I mean? Yeah.
And so there was a show where Mikey from Iwabo, the drummer, he was always like, he's a little prankster, right? And it's always like the most like, what? Why'd you do that? Right? Like he used to fart in bottles and put the cap on and then squeeze them in people's face. And it would be like, oh, what? Why'd you fucking do that, bro? But there was a time.
Did you drink his piss in the van?
No, I never drank his piss.
I drank his piss in the van. Who did that?
I drank my own piss by accident once.
I might have drank piss.
I might have drank his piss, and I was probably real fucked up. I think I was real mad at him for that one though. But he's like a piss fart guy, whatever. He's always doing pranks. But anyways, the most mild prank got Frankie pissed off.
Frank Sinatra, baby.
So okay, so we're going to the next show, and we have a big crate of sandwiches that the venue before has built for us, right? And everyone comes into the green room the next day, starts hanging up their clothes, picking their spots, but right before the show, Mikey starts putting these extra sandwiches just in random spots. So he ends up, and like at one point he like taps me and he's like, check this out, and he like puts a fucking sandwich in Frankie's windbreaker. And I don't think anything of it until later, whenever y'all are on stage, Frankie literally gives a shout out to everyone except for Winds of Plague, right? He's like, I want to thank everyone on the tour. Give it up for this band. Give it up for Iwabo. And then he's like, skips Winds of Plague, and he's like, if I didn't bring you up, fuck you, or some shit. And so we're all sitting there, and we could hear, the stage sound, and Johnny's like sitting with us, and Johnny's like, what the fuck was that all about, right? And then so Frankie finally comes out, after y'all get done. Frankie walks in, and he's like still sweaty from stage and stuff, and Johnny's like, yo, what the fuck was that all about? And like immediately, and we're all just sitting there like, uh-oh. like I didn't mean to be in the room when this was going down, right? And Frankie's like, well, some of y'all, he's like, I heard some of y'all need to keep your fucking stay out of my business. Don't touch my fucking stuff. And like, Johnny's like, because we'd already discussed this like right before it was going on, like, so everybody knew Mikey was the one. And then so Johnny's like, I don't know what the fuck you heard, but no one in Winds of Plague touched any of your fucking shit. And so then Frankie's like, oh, okay, like, whatever. And then, but after that, Mikey's like, oh shit, maybe I'm gonna have to apologize to this fool. I'm like, I don't know, man. It seemed like he was gonna beat some ass over a sandwich, dude. But yeah,
who doesn't like a pocket
that was the story
sandwich?
on that. But I think that that is an interesting subject because Frankie is infamously known for kind of like losing his temper and then like talking shit. Is there any stories that you would like to elaborate on with him kind of just like making having a moment and it was like memorable, good story stuff?
Yeah, I mean, like, look, a lot of stuff happened, and recently, last year, the band came to Nashville. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna reach out to him, and I'm gonna say, let's link up. I haven't spoken to him in like 8 years. Let's talk, let's straighten some shit out. We had a really good talk, and kind of I went there and expressed certain things that I could see how he felt a certain way about how I did, but I expressed, how I saw the way he did certain things, and that kind of made a clash. And that's really it. There was no communication, and it was just baby bitching, bickering. Like that's kind of how it really went down. So like we get, pounded it out, gave a hug, it was all good, watched him play, had a good time. So we were able to talk about that and kind of get past it all. So now that being said, moving back in the past, yeah, I mean, there was a lot of stuff where he even admitted that he thought he acted out of emotion. And like, he was like, man, I probably wouldn't have want to really tour with myself either. That's what he told me. Like, and I was like, wow, man, I didn't ask for all that. That's great that we could talk about this. And like, he's growing now over time, realizing these things for the most part. So like, there's definitely random shit where, he would just kind of come off the handle, and I just didn't understand it. And I wanted to just talk. I'm like, dude, what's going on? Or what is it? Or why can't we address it before it turns into that? Or like, we did on the Warp Tour, Bring Me the Horizon it was like Bring Me the Horizon plus Warp Tour. You know what I mean? Like, it was like unbelievable how good they were doing. And I was like hanging out with Ollie every day, and I had every drop dead, everything head to toe. And like, now I see the way it looked, right? Because he had the Cold Soul clothing, and I didn't like rock any of that. And I didn't do it intentionally or like because I didn't like him. I just was like, oh shit, this drop dead shit is legit and it's sick, and the new era fitted and all the things. And I was like, the pick bag, like I still have this thing, put my picks in it, so like it just like all this random shit. And I was like, all right, cool, you know what I mean? Like, we're hanging out, and I guess like he just felt a certain way, but we didn't talk about it. And one day they were playing in the stage next to us, and like we were playing the Won't You Be My Bride part, and in between is like a lot of spaces, right, where it's really like quiet and just cymbals going. And he was just like going, oh, fuck you, fuck all you motherfuckers, stay over there, it's gonna watch that band, fuck that band, fuck you. And I heard it, and I was like, oh no. And like we got off the stage, and I just was like, dude, what's up with that? And kind of he walked away, and then Bring Me the Horizon's guitar tech, who I was friends with, Dean, ran up to me and like almost like pushed me. He's like, what was that, mate? Like, what up now? And I was like, I don't know, like I'm not sure. And so like there's things that would happen, and like he went on his own accord to do these and make these decisions. And again, I like nowadays I think things would be a little different. I'm older and more mature, he is too, and it's more of like a let's figure this out, or like, hey, let's talk about that immediately. But before it's kind of we're on our own, and like I just didn't know. And again, maybe he was just kind of sour about that I wasn't, being like a team player, and I was all about their shit. And like I can understand it doesn't make it right, but there were just so many things like that happened that kind of added up that made the full picture of like, yo, I can't really be doing this anymore because it's not fun, because we keep bumping heads, and I just don't understand where to fix it. I don't see what I'm doing wrong, right? Where again, back in the day, I was so worried about, how do I get the weed? And he didn't really care. And it was like, he saw me stress about it, and it stressed him out, but he wouldn't tell me, hey man, like that affects all of us. You know what I mean? Like maybe now, but like before he didn't. So, just these things would happen. And when we played the what was it called? The People's Court in Iowa. That's Ben and Joe, the original guitar player and drummer. That was their last show. Ironically, the People's Court is the name of the venue. And
Nice.
on stage, dude, on stage, like all of a sudden a scream comes down, and it's like a Tasmanian devil, like dust storm of fighting. And I'm like, whoa, what's going on? And like, like Frank got into it with the old members, and then basically it was kind of a situation of like, Frank came on the bus and was like, yo, if they come on the bus, I'm out of here. And if they don't come on the bus, I'll stay, and then we'll figure it out. And I was like, oh my goodness. And it sucked because I was in the middle of a lot of this all the time. So I was the one to have to kind of mediate and tell the old members, yo, like, you guys got to go. This is such a problem. Like, I know it's tough for everybody, and I can't say who's at fault, but like, if Frank leaves, we really don't have a band. If you guys go, we could kind of figure it out. And it was just so rough, man. Because again, I was the people pleaser. I was very nice. I was very like not wanting to make these like clash. So, and again, that was probably a lot of why we weren't able to settle things, because he was very much one that wanted to bark, and I was like kind of like, oh no, everything's okay, and I'll just leave you alone for a little while and we'll go on. I think it's really because I really didn't want it to end. That's really what it was. I really was just like, yeah, there might be awkward things, maybe I'm doing things that I'm not sure of, but I don't even want to ask about it. Like let it just be, and then we'll move on, and kind of just keep going and make it happen. And then that fateful day in Russia that they wrote a song about. I think Russian Hotel Aftermath. It's one of like the new songs they have. That's like when it ultimately went down. Like we did a show there, and something happened. I know this is silly, but I think ultimately what was the final draw? The final draw was we were there, and he was I don't know, just kind of attitudey about something, and then I brought protein powder, like a big thing of protein powder, and we didn't get to work out. It was just so hectic, and he's down the hall going in his hotel room, and he's like, so or like something like, so did you really use that, or did you need that, or like, oh, good job bringing that, really useful, right? And then went in his room, and I was like, I'm quitting. I can't do this anymore. Like, I don't understand why that's necessary. And again, years later, I come to find out, there was so much tensions, but there was no conversations. There was no, and that was it, dude. And I was like, all right, I'm out of here. And I told Mike Mulholland, we were in the same hotel room. I was like freaking out about it. And he heard the conversation, and he went to the other room. Was like, all right, they're leaving. Anybody else leaving? What's going to happen now? And it was just this kind of like crazy moment. And then, we spoke on the phone, and I was like, when I got home, I was like, he's like, are you sure, dude? Like, we can't work this out. And I don't like regret my decision because of where I'm at in life, and like they're still going, so that's cool, and like we're friends again. But I was like, no, like I can't do this anymore. Like I'm sorry. I'm like, sorry, bro. So I know I'm kind of all over the place with these stories, but like, it was just so, it was just so crazy and volatile, but with the good times and the bad times and the good times, and lots of stories, but lots of good stuff too. Like it's not just all the man's the enemy. I'm not trying to be like that at all, but there was so much good stuff, good ideas he had, good moments, good plans put together, a lot of good opportunities. Like unfortunately when Randy from the Lamb of God got arrested, and we were at this festival, and they were like, okay, and you're going to play the main stage, you're play after this band, that band, Madball, all these huge bands in Europe. And I was like, is this going to be good? And like played in front of like almost 40,000 people. It's like the biggest show we ever played. Like huge. Yeah. So like a lot of good stuff, good memories, good vibes. So looking back, I'm not mad. Again, it was just tough in the moment, right? So eventually leaving in 2015, I was pretty sour. I would go to shows for like probably to 2018-ish, 19, and I would drink, and I come home and I would be shitty. I would be pretty mad. Like I would not be in a good mood about it, like because I come home like, cool, I'm working this other job, or I was selling roofs, I was working at Zales selling jewelry, and I'm like, fuck this, like, well, this is not what I should be doing. Like, what am I doing, man? Like, so there was tough times to come with it, but time heals all, as they say. And I was like, you know what? I guess it kind of did. So through all the good, all the bad, all the stories, here we are today, and all things worked out, man.
Yeah, I think that when any band ends, no matter the circumstances, like there's like a relief and also sadness about it. Of course, all of us want to be playing music. You know what I mean? Like, you can't always get there.
Yeah, so. Dude. It was tough. It was definitely tough. So that's why I started doing the YouTube channel, where I was like, last year I started feeling comfortable with like, you know what? Let me just start covering these songs that I wrote and recorded, with the band, and hearing Frank's voice, hearing the songs. Like I was into it. I was back again, like invested. I was like, okay, this is good. This is written well. This sounds good. I'm like, oh wow, this is good stuff. I like this again. So it was like very empowering to feel that way, and that's kind of what ultimately led me to like be like, oh, let me link up with the dude, and let's just like talk about everything like we never were able to, and it was great. So that's why I feel comfortable, and I'm not knocking him with these stories, but like comfortable with talking about what went down in the past to kind of lead to what where it's at now, and the fact they have Josh Travis and they're still touring, and my buddy Zach, a good friend of mine, he plays bass for the band now. So yeah, so that's where they're at. I think Frank's going to be in town pretty soon too, so we're supposed to link up and have a little lunch or din, and chat it up. So
nice.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for telling us some stories, and I think that I really like Frankie too, but he just kind of, especially back then, he would just like pop off, even if he was joking, and he like would not sound like he was joking. You know? What I mean?
No, who does that? Who does that?
But like now, I saw it happen like as it happened. Like he has said some shit recently, like on Twitter and all this shit, and it was like during the Spirit Box, like after Bill passed, he kind of just like voiced up, like, why haven't y'all said anything? Like, and he's like, that's kind of fucked up, and he like added them, and then the next day he's like, I apologize, I was acting out of emotions, but it is something that I feel like they should address. You know what I mean? And so it's like, and they did, and I'm sure there was conversations behind the scenes, but I appreciate when people, especially used to be known for controversial, like, just like, I'm going to say things right off the top of my head, but now they can say like, yeah, I'm like that, and I apologize. It's like,
yeah.
I'll always forgive that rather than just like someone who says some shit and walks away from every conversation afterwards. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I would love to have him on again, honestly. So hey, shout out Frankie. Let's get him on. Yeah.
Awesome.
But yeah, let's go ahead.
No, I want to tell him how amazing Goodbye to the Gallows was. That record was fucking one of the best things to ever happen. What year did that come out? 06, 07?
Yeah, I think 07. Yep.
Yeah, dude, that was one of the greatest metalcore whatever records. Didn't know you could be sad and be so heavy at the same fucking time. It was so awesome. Like,
yeah,
like being like a new metal guy, hearing like new metal style riffs played that way, dude. That record is insane. You're like, I was so excited to talk to you about it just because of how dope that fucking record was. Like, I love that record so much. It's not.
Dude, yeah, no, thank you. And honestly, that was a lot of that came from all of our different backgrounds and really a lot of like how heavy and deep I got with the stuff I listened to, as well as like going down the road of like Deftones and like Emotions and other bands and stuff like that. And same thing with Ben and Joe, the original guitar player and drummer. Ben was a big fan of like Deftones and anything kind of going down that road of like of just like a vibe. And Frank was with it, and Frank was able to write to it, so it was just kind of, it was easy to keep the ball rolling and write stuff like that. And when I joined the band wasn't like as heavy. It didn't tune as low. It was heavy, but it was like more of like more of a vibe. So I kind of brought a lot of that, like, let's get like a little more ignorant. Let's make it let's make it so people are like, oh man, like, really feel it, really get angry. Kind of like what, I don't know, back in the day, Pantera and Meshuggah, Dying Fetus, Morbid Angel, just so much random stuff that I would listen to and be like these feelings, like, I want to give it, I want to make it in my own way. So I hear it, put it on a record, and other people hear it. So it always is awesome to hear, the great feedback from that record, because that was something that we were like, that was the first thing we did. And it's funny because when we signed to Victory Records, Tony Brummel was like, yeah, you guys will be the next Hatebreed, blah, blah, blah. And like, we were a little more like, I guess, a little more like the hardcore vibe, a little bit of like, with less of the emotion stuff. And then he got the masters for Goodbye to the Gallows, and he wasn't like that stoked. And I was like, uh-oh, did we mess up? Like, he was like, this is cool and all, but like, I thought you'd be like more heavy all the time and da-da-da. And I'm like, yeah, but like, our vibe is like, to kind of take you all, take you for a ride all over the place, and, have the feelings and, the lyrical content, and then have like the really heavy parts, which leads me to one thing that we were going to talk about as far as like how music has changed, right? Like Goodbye to the Gallows was like so good for people, then kind of was like, okay, we like it. And now it came back to be like, oh man, like the OG, I see, posted all the time. And even Felony, where people hated and so much,
I love Felony.
Yeah,
I love that album so much.
A lot of people, dig it, and I thought that was, anything that we did, I really enjoyed. There's some songs I enjoy less than others. I don't hate anything we ever did, but But man, moving forward, like for instance, like bands like Knock Loose, but Body Snatcher, all those dudes, cool dudes, heavy bands, and they do those heavy doomy parts and stuff that we did, like slow it down, and we would get what's called the "fuck you" horseshoe or the boat. Remember that, where people would pretend to row a boat in the pit, and then I'd be like, "Do they hate this? Do they like this? Like, what did we do wrong here?" and then that's it, man. Like that's all they just want to dun dun bun dun 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 dun.
Yup.
I was like, oh my god, like that is what it's about the last like 5-6 years now. So that's cool that's kind of making a resurgence because again that reinstates kind of the old stuff that we did where we have parts like that I was like, all right, it's kind of basic, simple, heavy lyrics over it. That's cool, that'll fly. People will mosh, and then they did or didn't, and now it's like, that's it. That's the heaviest. That's how I wrote my band. And like, I'm good friends with, dude from Body Snatcher, and Kyle. And he's just like, honestly, like Goodbye the Gallows, like was like, there's this breakdown, that breakdown. I'm like, really? I'm like, to me, it's kind of like, basically, like, yeah, we wouldn't be like doing it if it wasn't, for that. And I'm like, interesting. It's so cool to hear that because I passed that down to other people that I met. Like, we were fortunate enough to tour with Korn and like other bands, and like, got to meet them, and they were like, yo, you guys are sick. And I'm like, you got to understand something. Like, I was 16 years old in like 1998, freaking out, being all fat and chubby in my fucking flannel, not wanting to do anything but play my guitar, and like, yo, my life. So for you to tell me that is amazing. So I get it. So passing the buck down, it's always appreciated. So hearing that is definitely every time super cool, man. It's never like a yeah, it is. It's a good album, isn't it? It's never like that, man. So thank you, and I appreciate it to anybody that's still jamming it.
All the time.
It goes a long way to hear that, and help fuel me to do the covers and not the covers, but the playthroughs, and kind of keep that going. And it's fun, I hear it back, and I'm like, all right, that was good. Still good.
I think like when I'm trying to describe other bands, a lot of the time it's always like, oh, it kind of sounds like Emmure. I think like me and my brother, we say that so often, like it's like early Emmure. It's like early Emmure. I think that gets said quite a bit when trying to describe other bands. I know we've said it. We used to do music video reactions and stuff, and I think that got brought up all the time. Like, oh, it's kind of got a little Emmure vibe there. So, I mean, I think you guys influence a lot of bands that are around now. So,
yeah.
Also, I want to ask. I'm the wrestling nerd here. I need to ask about the Kurt Angle stuff. How did Kurt Angle like get tied up with you guys?
I think we were trying to figure out an album cover, and then we worked, with whatever pull that Victory Records had, like whoever their contacts were between them and Frank. Frank was the one that primarily dealt with back and forth artwork, lyrics, song names, all that straight up. Like he's responsible for all that. I write riffs. And so he really had his hand in like kind of back and forth with them. And then I don't know, one day kind of between them and Sean Keith, when he started managing us, I think it all just came together. We're like, yo, we can get Kurt Angle on the cover. It's like a respect issue. It's like a boxer. And it's this whole thing of like, respect. And I was like, all right, that seems pretty cool. And then, he ended up doing it. I never met him. We never got to meet him, unfortunately.
Oh, that's a shame.
I know. But yeah, like he did the cover, and then we were told that he liked the album. He thought the music was cool, heavy and aggressive, whatever. And then I think he came out one time with that meme I've seen recently where he's wearing the shirt like on the I don't know if Monday Night Raw or something. He came out wearing the shirt, and I was like, yo, that is awesome, man. So I was like really hyped up about that. But unfortunately, man, there's not much else that I can really add to that. We made the boxing gloves we sold. We had mouth guards and shit. Like we were just like,
Do you remember that? Yep.
If you remember the movie Spaceballs, merchandise. Right?
There's Kurt
So,
Angle.
like-
It was during a TNA. I want to say it was one of their big pay-per-views too, but that's Kurt Angle wearing the Emmure shirt on the TNA paper show, whatever it was back in the day. I just remember seeing that and I didn't watch TNA back then, but I was like, holy shit, that's awesome.
Yes, that's what it is. There's no loyalty, love, respect. Like the lyrics from the intro song. That's right. Yeah, that's what he wore.
was just fixing to say the intro song on that record goes so fucking hard. It's not even funny.
Yeah.
It's so hard, dude.
Dude, yeah, and again, like that whole thing, you know, which is a whole nother subject that we probably can open up, but like there was not many bands that went out on the ledge to just like, again, we called it the bloody chord. That's what I named it. Because we were listening to a lot of Blood Has Been Shed, and then came the Acacia Strain, and then, you know, a few other bands, Life Once Lost. There's a few bands that hit that like that like nasty chord that we do all the time. And I was like, yo, that's it. That's disgusting. Like, let's do that. Let's do that as much as we can. And, you know, intros are cool, you know, like Acacia and a lot of other bands that did intros. So, like, I get and I understand, you know, people are like, oh, it sounds like it. But it's also like, yo, a genre sounds like a genre, right? Like, you're going to get 10,000 bands that sound similar. And I would say that, and I wouldn't want to, like, offend anybody, but I'm like, yo, if you don't listen to like hardcore, you're gonna hear and you're like, it all sounds, every band, I don't know what band am I listening to. It kind of sounds the same. So like, I understood and I got, I'm like, oh, people, all right, that sounds just like the Acacia Strain or this or that. And like, I never really got mad about that, but you know, doing the intros, doing all that heavy tuning the guitar low, you know, to me, it was Meshuggah in 1999 or 2000 when they put out the album Nothing. Straight up, between that, Blood Has Been Shed, Cannibal Corpse. There's a lot of bands where I got like that, like real disgusting, you know, let's not just do bar chords, let's split it up and make it sound really, really, you know, gross and chug it type of style. And, you know, K-Stream was part of it too. And we got a lot of shit from that, man. And here's a story. I don't think really anybody knows about this, but like they played here in Nashville at the Muse, which is where we played, where Whitechapel played their first show. We were on our first tour, and I watched Whitechapel play, and I was like, yep. I was like, I would do everything I could for you guys, but I got nothing because we barely just got signed. So, like, that was pretty cool. But either way, we were on tour on the day off, and I saw the Acacia Strain guys here, and they were, like, kind of, like, cold-shouldering me, and I was like, that's weird. We were, like, cool, like, a minute ago, and I was like, Kevin, and the drummer, like, hey, this, that. He's like, oh, I'm just not in a good mood today. And, like, I was like, what's going on? And that was the literal beginning of like, uh-oh, there's a beef apparently. Like, what happened? I don't understand. And again, I'm like a very, you know, literal nice guy. I'm, you know, I don't want to have confrontation. I'm like, oh no, I felt so weird. I was like, what happened? And that's when the word got around, oh, the Emmure is just this Acacia Strain rip off and all the things. I was like, oh no, but it's not like we have similar things happening, but we're different bands. It's like any genre. Like, you know, I was trying to make sense of it. It was a whole fucking to do. And then, yeah, like when we were tour for a while, like there's a couple of times where somebody tried to jump Frankie, like shit would go down, like our merch table got flipped, like it was weird, dude. I was kind of nervous. I was like, yo, why is it like this real, man? Like, really? Like, okay. And then we played that show upstate New York in Albany at, what is the name? Northern Lights. That's where we played. And we're about to play the show, and I'm walking in from the van, and I see Vince walk up with like 7 or 8 dudes, and I'm like, oh boy. And I walk inside, and Frank's about to walk outside. I stopped him, like, yo, Vince is outside. You might not. He just like pushes me aside, walks right out, walks right up to Vince, hits him, and they start fighting. And that's how it happens. And they're fighting. I think Frank got his nipple bit. Like, yo, they were biting each other. I'm serious. Yeah. Like, yeah, they were biting. Vince. Yeah, like like it was brutal, and like everybody's like, just let it go until the point they were both like out of breath, shirts ripped. Is that it? Are we done? Are we fucking done? And they shook hands, and then they breathed a little more. That's it. We're done. And like they shook hands again, and that was the end of it, dude. And like I was like, thank God that's over. And then like all the dudes that rolled up with Vince went into the office and were like, we need that tape for the surveillance footage, and they threw it out, and that was the end of that. It never happened. So that's how that got squashed apparently. And then yeah, and then, you know, it's like, let's grow up and let's, you know, do this right. And then we toured with them, and then, you know, obviously we've been homies ever since. So like that was long behind us, and you know, they're still going. And Mike Mulholland, dude, Mike, our old guitar player, he's in the Acacia Strain. He helped write the new records, and he's out there crushing. So what a small weird world how that works. Yeah.
I remember that beef. I remember all over MySpace and all that stuff, and like Mickey and Vincent got in a fight, and it was
Yeah.
just like, huh? What? Like, I couldn't comprehend it at the time. I wasn't in the scene. I didn't know. And then, like, being around other people who were around all of it, they were like, yo, it was fucking stupid. This was dumb. Like, it squashed. Everything's cool. Who cares? Whatever. Like, what the fuck?
I just remember hearing some songs were supposed to be directed at the other band, and like there was, I don't know if any of that was ever came out as true or not, and we don't have to. We can just keep it a speculation. But I do remember hearing that back in the day was like, well, this song's about Emmure and this song's about them, and
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I mean that's kind of really what it was. They were just kind of like just jabbing at each other, honestly, and it came to a head, and that's why I think Frankie wanted to get it done, and obviously Vince rolled up to be like, what's up with it? You guys are here, upstate Massachusetts. That's kind of like Massachusetts, like the New England area, Massachusetts, Connecticut. That was like their area. So like for us, we're like playing VFWs and like, man, just like small other bands kind of had beef with us. It was just so weird. We always had like people were just like so mad with us. And then again, like I'm always like, yo, I just want to be friends. I just want to smoke. Like let's hang out. Like I don't get this. So 2004, 5, 6, 7, it was just a mess of just like even 8, of all that happening. So I was super glad when that was over. And again, and then time went on. They wrote their records, we wrote ours, and sounding similar, I guess, in the genre, but like doing our things. They got more like core, more like core. Like it's funny, people call us deathcore, but like I'm just like I don't know. It's like there's not that much like metal in it. There's a little bit of hardcore influence metal, but like it's tough for me to say exactly what we were again because we have so many weird like things that we like we were just like I said, like being Cannibal Corpse, like I could hear certain like grooves and vibes and then I'd sit and write a song for Emmure based on how I felt from listening to that, right? So it's like people wouldn't know that it just comes from so many different places. So to circle back around on what you're saying, absolutely. The intros, love doing the intros, and I think we didn't do it on Felony. We went right into the album, and that was it, right? Every other record I think had an intro. I think every one of them did.
What was the one y'all had to change the name to? Were you in the band at that time?
Bring a gun to
Eternal
school?
Enemies.
Yeah.
Was that your last album with the band?
That was the 6th record, I think, right? I think that was the last one. Yeah, what ended up happening, and again, this is one of those things where I wasn't very good like with lyrics or like lyrical content, or I knew the name of the song and what's going on in the song pretty much like as it was coming out, or like we were listening to the masters, like, and it wasn't because I was trying to be ignorant to it. I just was like, I'm so focused on riffs and the music that I don't really know lyrics very well. And, again, this is something we talked about later in life last year. But like when I found out that was going to be the song name, I was like, that can't be a thing. It's a hot topic like right now. And then it turned out that when that was submitted, Best Buy was like, we're not putting this in stores and like this and that and that. And that was still a time where you still needed to have some sort of like first week sales. So it was like, it can't be that. And then it turned into, all right, so now if I change it, now how do I look? Changing it, that looks even worse. And I'm just like, dude, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to handle this. This is not my, thing. So between management, the label and everything, they were just kind of like, it really has to change. It can't be that name. So that's really it. Like it would have just it would have buried the album at a time where nowadays, you could do something like that. It might look bad, but people could find it real quick, online and streaming platforms and all that. But before it was like not quite there yet. So we wanted to make sure it was in Best Buy and fucking Coconuts or whatever else they had at that point. The record places still sold CDs, but I was a brutal noodle, as they say.
Hell yeah.
I could sit here and talk about all those records, Jesse. I'm such a nerd for those records. It's not even funny, man.
Yeah, it was good, man. A lot of people ask about that, or like, how did you write this song, or how was it, writing? Like, if you've ever been part of it, it's just very interesting, making the demos, bringing the demos to the studio, and then you're there for weeks, just like dragging it out to the point where you not hate the song, but you're like, what is this even good? What am I hearing anymore? Like, does it sound good? Do we need to add more stuff to it? Is this a finished song? Are we done here? Like, so it's just such a weird process to record a record. That's for any artist, that like kind of doubts what they're going to do. And again, that's like the beautiful part in recording too. Like when I watch documentaries about other artists and they're like doubting it, or you hear the creation of what they don't know yet is about to be something that's going to change their life. Right. So, it's a very cool process, and getting the feedback like that is amazing, because you can only hope for that and go, I think this is good. I think what we have here is good and sounds, what I hear in my head to my hands to the record to what you hear is what I'm hoping for what it is. Right. So, again, always such a blessing, always super cool to hear the praises about it. And hopefully it just kind of keeps going and stands the test of time. And the band keeps going. They're about to do their 9th record, I think, something like that. Number 9, man.
Yeah. Sick.
Hell yeah. Jesse, thanks for coming on. Do you wanna promote anything you got going on in your life?
Yeah, I've just been doing the YouTube Jesse K Jams with a Z. And I got like 30 videos on there now. So like every 2 or 3 weeks I'll post a video, whether it's like a guitar playthrough of one of the songs, all the way ranging from the EP to like the 6th record that I was part of. I did a 4-part series on there talking about the beginning of me and the band, how it all started, and just like some behind the scenes stuff. And soon enough, I'm going to be doing some covers with my fiance. She sings. She does like soul, R&B. She could do anything, like random ballads of heavy bands that I listen to. She'll like sing along to. So I'm like, we got to get this going. So soon enough, we're gonna cover a couple of songs. I'll play the guitar, produce it, and should do some singing. I just figured do something a little different for some fun.
Nice.
That's about it. That's what I got going on. Otherwise, I'm just here working remotely and fixing generators on the phone. That's what I do.
Toby, tell us about your podcast.
Yeah, I do a retro video game review show. It is called The Secret Levels Podcast. We go over one old game per episode, and we let you know if it's still worth playing. We go over the history, the story, the gameplay, and, see if it's something that's fun or not. I also stream on Twitch. I play old video games, twitch.tv/TobyVonDoom. Let's see, Fuzz and Rabbit.
You go, Rabbit.
That's it. Sums it up.
Yeah, we got a shitty little band called Terminated. You wanna check us out? We got a Spotify, we got YouTube, we got Instagram. Yeah, go check us out. Hopefully we'll be recording this fall and possibly playing shows next year. I don't know.
Yeah, hopefully. Maybe some new music for everybody. We'll see. We'll see how it fucking goes.
We need to get some shit recorded. That's what we need.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to get on that.
And maybe Toby will do a little music video for
Man,
it.
I'd love to.
As long as I don't have to be in it, baby.
You're going to be the star.
Nope.
Yeah.
Music videos
You're gonna be in
more
every
than
shot.
anything in the world. Nope. I already am in every shot. I'm the drummer. That's why it sucks being a drummer. You're in every fucking shot in a music video. It's the worst. Everybody gets to go get fucked up and hang out. You have to sit there and play the fucking song 100 times.
We'll build a concept around this.
Yes.
Man,
The video.
you need
Fuzz
to
goes
just,
missing.
You need to just play those drums, Fuzz.
We're like, where's Fuzz?
I don't want to.
We need a drummer.
Hey, I'm Michael, aka Rickshaw, and you've been nerding out with Rickshaw. And you can find us on all the stuff. We also post everything on Spotify and Apple Music if you want to listen to all the audio versions. We also do the live show almost every week on Thursday at 6:30 Central Time. So if you're hearing us on the podcast version, like the audio version, maybe come check us out and see what we look like on YouTube. Anyways, I'm also in a band called Never Rest, and we are writing a bunch of new music right now, and we should be putting up some stuff pretty soon. So keep an eye out for that. Go add that band up, and we will see you later, nerds.